7 Signs of Power Games in Love in the Stoic Jungian Response. Introduction. Have you ever felt that love is no longer a peaceful harbor, but a battlefield without gunfire, where every word and every silence is calculated to gain the upper hand? Why, between two souls that were meant to blend, does there exist a deep chasm of manipulation and a craving for control? Do you wake up with a vague sense of anxiety, wondering what you did wrong when the other person suddenly becomes cold? Or why you find yourself on your knees apologizing for things that were not your fault? This is the existential crisis of modern man. We lose ourselves in the labyrinth of seeking acceptance from others. We fear abandonment to the point that we are willing to surrender our spiritual autonomy to another's management. That pain is not just emotional trauma, it is a fracture of the inner citadel that every individual must possess to exist with integrity in this world. Today we will not talk about superficial dating techniques, but perform a profound psychological and philosophical surgery. Together we will dissect 7 subtle signs of power games in love, the mechanisms through which the ego tries to swallow the partner to fill an inner emptiness. Through the lens of resilient Stoic philosophy from Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, and the depth of Carl Jung's analytical psychology, we will learn to recognize these cracks and build a character-driven response. This is a journey to help you reclaim misplaced projections, face your own shadow, and re-establish boundaries to achieve individuation. Please subscribe to the Stoicism Jungian channel, like, and share this video if you are yearning to reclaim mastery over your own life. Your support is the lighthouse that helps us continue to spread the light of awakening in the darkness of toxic relationships. Sign 1. Emotional withholding and the projection of the power shadow. The first sign of a power game is the use of emotion as a currency. The other person does not give love freely, they disperse it conditionally. When you submit, they are warm. When you express your own identity or set a boundary, they immediately withdraw their attention, becoming distant and cold. This is not merely disappointment, but a sophisticated manipulative tactic designed to create dependency. In Jungian psychology, this behavior stems from them projecting their own shadow onto you. Those who crave power often hide deep insecurity and fear of vulnerability beneath the persona of control. When they withhold emotion, they are actually trying to maintain an invulnerable image, forcing you to play the role of the beggar so they can feel valued. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth." When a partner withdraws emotion to punish you, the Stoic views it as an action outside of their control. Your suffering or anxiety is not caused by their action, but by the value you assign to that action. Epictetus taught that we should only concern ourselves with what belongs to the free will, prohairesis. If the partner's love is something that can be withdrawn as a reward for submission, then it is not a true good, but an indifferent that can be manipulated. The Stoic Jungian response here is discerning indifference. You must recognize that their coldness is a reflection of their inner weakness, not a measure of your worth. Instead of chasing them to compensate or beg, return to yourself. Carl Jung emphasized that individuation requires us to withdraw our projections. When you no longer let their emotions dictate the state of your soul, you have neutralized their power weapon. Tell yourself in the way of a philosopher, their action is their business. My peace is my responsibility. When you are no longer an emotional debtor, this power game will automatically collapse because it no longer has an audience to perform for. Sign 2. Strategic silence in the hidden tyrant. Archetype. Silence is often honored as a virtue, but in a power game, it becomes strategic silence, the silent treatment. This is when the partner intentionally cuts off communication to force you into a state of panic, self-conjecture, and eventually surrender. In Jung's psychological structure, This is a manifestation of the tyrant archetype in a passive state. Instead of attacking with words, they attack with emptiness. They want you to feel as if you have been erased from their world. This silence triggers the primal fear of abandonment in the human collective unconscious, the fear of a child separated from the source of life. Seneca, in his letters to Lucilius, emphasized that nothing is more cruel than letting the mind be disturbed by vain thoughts about what others are thinking. The Stoic regards the silence of another as an opportunity to practice their own inner stillness. If the partner chooses not to speak, you have no obligation to fill that void with groundless apologies. Your desperate attempt to break their silence at all costs only reinforces their belief that silence is an effective control tool. To cope, you need to activate the sage archetype within. The sage does not fear solitude and is not undulated by coldness. Use that time to dialogue with yourself instead of trying to dialogue with a wall. Ask yourself, what am I afraid of? Can this silence take away my virtue or wisdom? The answer is always no. When you accept the partner's silence as a natural event, like rain or a gloomy day, you are returning the psychological burden to them. When they realize their silence no longer creates panic, they will be forced to change tactics or face their own failure in controlling you. Sign 3. Conditional generosity and the savior complex. The third sign often hides beneath a veneer of boundless kindness. The partner is always ready to help, give gifts, or solve all your problems. However, every act of generosity comes with an invisible debt. They are using a savior complex to place you in the position of a perpetual debtor. In Jungian psychology, the overgenerous person is often trying to compensate for a shadow that feels worthless. By doing everything for you, they strip away your autonomy, making you feel that without them, you would collapse. This is an extremely insidious power game because it is labeled as love. Marcus Aurelius advised us, do everything according to its nature, without seeking repayment or recognition. A true Stoic gives because it is the right thing to do, not to accumulate power over others. If you find yourself suffocated by the partner's generosity and feel guilty every time you want to say no, you have fallen into the trap. This generosity is not aimed at nurturing you, but at owning you. The response here is to practice spiritual self-sufficiency. Never let anyone become the sole source of your happiness or survival. Accept help gratefully, but never trade away your freedom of judgment. Carl Jung believed that wholeness only comes when we dare to stop playing the protected child and become an independent individual. Establish clear boundaries. I appreciate your gift, but it never buys my will. When you show that you can stand firm even if they withdraw support, the savior game loses its fangs. You owe no one your entire life just because they were kind to you in a few moments. Thank you for joining us through the first deep layers of the psychology of love. If you feel these signs are illuminating the dark corners of your relationship, take a second to hit like and leave a mindful comment under the video. Your presence is a testament to the strength of a soul finding its way back to freedom. Don't forget to subscribe to the Stoicism Jungian channel and share this message with those who also need a philosophical anchor amidst emotional storms. Now let's move forward into the remaining 4 signs, where the truth becomes even sharper. Sign 4. Triangulation and the activation of the inferiority complex. Triangulation is a classic sign of a power game, where the partner brings a third person into the conversation or relationship, perhaps an ex, a friend they admire, or even a family member, with the intent of making you feel insecure and forced to compete for their attention. In Jungian psychology, this tactic strikes directly at the inferiority complex lying deep within your shadow. The manipulator plays the role of the referee of value, making you believe your position in their heart is uncertain. They use the trickster archetype to create chaos and jealousy, thereby holding the controls of your emotions. Stoic philosophy teaches us self-respect based on virtue, not on comparison with others. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions." If you care about where you stand compared to another in the eyes of your partner, you have placed yourself in the position of a slave. The Stoic understands that jealousy is a negative passion arising from a false judgment, assuming that another's favor is a good that must be fought for. To neutralize triangulation, you must reclaim your self-worth from the partner's hands. Do not enter the race they have laid out. When they mention someone else with the intent of comparison, maintain absolute composure. Carl Jung argued that once we recognize the trickster in operation, its trick loses its effect. Tell yourself, if my position needs to be fought for, then that position is not worthy of me. By refusing to be jealous, you not only protect a piece of your soul, but also strip the partner of their power to use a third person to diminish you. Stand firm like a mountain. The mist, the third person, may pass over, but the mountain remains unmoved. Sign 5. Testing boundaries in the abuse of the persona. Power games often start with small violations of your boundaries to see how you will react. They might make offensive jokes, make decisions for you without asking, or invade your private space. If you remain silent or ignore it, they will push further. This is the process of testing boundaries to establish dominance. In Jungian psychology, this involves them trying to force you to wear a persona of submission. They want to define you as a flexible or easygoing person, titles that are actually traps to strip away your right to self-determination. Epictetus, who was a slave before becoming a philosopher, understood boundaries better than anyone. He taught, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid with regard to external things. Setting a boundary is not aggression. It is the protection of the self. The Stoic does not allow anyone to invade the territory of their mind. Your boundary is where your virtue resides. If you let others break your limits, you are betraying yourself. The Stoic Jungian response is to establish boundaries with calmness but firmness. Do not react with anger, as anger is a sign of weakness. React with a clear statement of reality. When a boundary is violated, say, "This does not suit me and I do not accept it." Do not over-explain, as explanation is often an attempt to be understood, a need that the manipulator will use to continue the argument. Carl Jung believed that maturity begins when we dare to give up the good person persona to become an authentic human being. Have the courage to be difficult in the eyes of the manipulator so that you can be free in your own eyes. Sign 6. Weaponizing vulnerability in the wounded child archetype. Another subtle sign is when the partner uses their own vulnerabilities or weaknesses to control you. Every time you try to demand fairness or set a boundary, they immediately recall a painful past, failures, or their own weakness to evoke compassion and guilt in you. This is the weaponization of pain. They use the wounded child archetype to force you into playing the role of the perpetual caregiver, the one who never has the right to demand because the partner has suffered enough. This is a stealthy way of holding the upper hand by pretending to be in the lower position. Seneca once wrote, "Being fair with pain is also a kind of virtue." A person with Stoic resolve does not use their wounds as an excuse to trample on the rights of others. We are responsible for healing ourselves, not using pain as a tool to enslave loved ones. If you feel imprisoned in a relationship because you can't bear to leave due to the partner's suffering, you are being manipulated by a psychological ghost. The response here is to clearly distinguish between empathy and responsibility. You can empathize with their pain, but you are not responsible for the consequences of that pain. Carl Jung emphasized that each person must face their shadow alone to reach wholeness. Coddling their pain-based manipulation actually prevents them from growing. Hold on to your integrity and say, "I understand your pain, but that does not allow you to treat me this way. Do not let your kindness become the soil for exploitation. The Stoic helps others with discernment, not blindness. Sign 7. Gaslighting and the distortion of logos, reason. The final and most dangerous sign is gaslighting, the attempt to distort your perception of reality. They deny what happened, twist your words, and make you doubt your own memory and sanity. In Stoic philosophy, this is a direct attack on logos, the divine reason within every human. In Jungian psychology, gaslighting aims to destroy the inner compass, guiding you to the truth, leaving your ego lost in a labyrinth of illusions constructed by the partner. They want you to lose faith in yourself so that you become entirely dependent on their guidance. Marcus Aurelius advised us to look at things stripped bare, peeling away every decorative layer to see their true nature. When facing the distortion of reality, the Stoic clings tightly to obvious facts and the consistency of reason. You do not need the partner's confirmation to know what is true. Truth does not need consensus to exist. If you know what you said, what you saw, then their denial is simply a lie outside of your control. The Stoic Jungian response to gaslighting is to stop debating reality with the manipulator. Instead, validate that reality within yourself. Carl Jung believed that when we connect with the inner man, we possess a source of strength that cannot be shaken by any external pressure. Keep a journal, a powerful Stoic tool to record the truth. When the partner tries to bend reality, simply smile and hold on to your conviction. Do not let anyone steal the power of your reason. When you no longer need them to validate the truth for you, they have no power over your soul. True freedom begins when you realize, I am the only one who holds the key to my own reality. Conclusion. The journey of dissecting the 7 signs of power games in love brings us back to a core truth. Genuine love cannot sprout in the soil of dominance and submission. The power games we have analyzed are actually the desperate attempts of the ego to fill primal fear and ontological lack. When you recognize these signs, you are not only protecting yourself, but also opening a door for both parties to look directly into their own shadow. Stoic philosophy reminds us that the only fortress that cannot be breached is the mind of a free and virtuous person. No one, even the person we love most, has the right to dictate our value or our peace. Your happiness is an internal job, not a gift to be bestowed or withdrawn by another. The Stoic Jungian response is not coldness or escape, but a presence with high resolve, loving with all your heart while maintaining the independence of the soul. Carl Jung once said, "Where love rules, there is no will to power, and where power predominates, love is lacking." The process of individuation requires you to bravely face the harshest truths in a relationship to protect the seed of wholeness within you. Do not fear losing a relationship in which you must kneel. Fear losing yourself while trying to hold on to it. Take a deep breath and feel the presence of reason, logos, flowing through your veins. You are not a pawn in anyone's game. You are the master of your fate, the architect of your soul. From today, practice withdrawing projections, establishing boundaries with composure, and living an upright life according to Stoic principles. Only when you are a free and whole individual can you give and receive true love, a love without chains, without manipulation, only respect and companionship between two awakened souls. Thank you for listening and joining Stoicism Jungian on this journey into the depths of the soul. If these shares have helped you see the exit amidst the labyrinths of power, please leave a comment sharing your story. Every comment of yours is a precious piece building our community. Don't forget to subscribe to the Stoicism Jungian channel, like, and share this video with those who need to find their resolve again. I look forward to seeing you in our next journeys of discovery and healing, where we will together forge a will of iron and unlock the beauty of the spirit. Stoicism Jungian, where an iron will meet the depth of the soul.